All right, you guys, we got a test coming up next class period, so I am going to go over the review. You guys are welcome to rewatch this, rewind this as many times as you need to get yourself prepared for the review. I'm going to go kind of quick because we have several questions here, 22 questions, and I want to try to get it done in 30 minutes. So feel free to, as I said, rewind it as much as possible. All right, number one, square root of 48. We're simplifying. If I type this into my calculator, I get a decimal. Remember, that is how I know when I need to simplify. If you get a whole number, that's called a perfect square. You just write the whole number and you are done. So I go to the side. 48 is 8 times 6. 8 is 4 times 2. Circle your prime numbers. 4 is 2 times 2. 6 is 2 times 3. So then I'm going to go under here and I'm going to rewrite it. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 2's and a 3. 2, 4, 8, 16. That is correct. Circle my pairs, circle my pairs. For each pair, I bring it out once. Notice how I'm not putting the plus minus sign until the end. Several of you guys are messing up with where your placement is of the plus minus sign. Multiply. 2 times 2 is 4 radical 3, and now I can put the plus minus sign on. Number 2, we've got negative 5 radical 108. If I type in 108, I get a decimal, so I'm going to go to the side. 108 is 2 times 54, 2 times 27, 3 times 9, 3 times 3. The negative 5 comes down. I've got 1, 2, 2 2's, 3 3's. Circle my pairs. Bring my pairs out. So it's a pair of 2's, a pair of 3's. That leaves a 3 in the radical. So it's negative 5 times 2 is negative 10. Negative 10 times 3 is negative 30. Radical 3. And it is plus or minus, but you know, plus or minus with the negative, we can just throw that plus right on top. 30 radical 3. Number 3, we've got radical 480 over 120. You know, honestly, just to show you this real quick, this won't normally happen. 480 divided by 120 is 4, so this is just radical 4, which is a perfect square, which is just 2, so plus or minus 2. Okay, I'm going to work down and show you the other way. You know, we talked about more likely you're going to have to split it, so this is radical 480 over radical 120. Which if I go to the side and I break down 480, I get, let's see, I get 6 times 80. That's a good one. That's 6 is 2 times 3. This is 8 times 10. 8 is 4 times 2. 4 is 2 times 2. And 10 is 2 times 5. So when I put that on top, just for the 480, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got 1, 3, and 1, 5. A lot of y'all are not putting your little tree branches. You're not circling your numbers. There's a lot of things that are making you forget numbers. You're not going over here and drawing fraction bars. I mean, every little thing that you leave out is, you know, another possibility of you making a mistake. So that's why we work on these things. So here's 120. I got 1, 2, 3 2's. I've got a 3 and I've got a 5. Only with fractions, when we have numbers on top and bottom, can we 2, 2, 2, 3, 5. So I basically end up with nothing on the bottom, which gives me radical 4. Oh, well, actually I can circle that pair, which means it comes out, and I get 2 on the top, because that comes out. Look, nothing else is left, so that's plus or minus 2. Same answer I got right there when I just divided it. Number 4, I've got 9 radical 20 over 3 radical 5. If I break that down, 20, I'll go to the side here, is 4 times 5. 5 is prime, 2 times 2. So I get 2 times 2 times 5 over 3 radical 5. The 5's cancel. The 2 comes out, which gives me 9 times 2 over 3, which is 18 over 3, which if I divide by 3 is 6 over 1, which is just 6, plus or minus 6. Sorry there, didn't see that it was the bottom. Okay. Number 5. We have 8 radical 12 squared. That is 8 radical 12 times another 8 radical 12. The little 2 says we have 2 of them. 8 times 8 is 64. 8 times 8 is 64. Radical 12 times radical 12 is 12. See, some of y'all are putting plus minus signs. Not yet. You're multiplying those. And then 64 times 12, using my calculator here, is 768. Drop the plus minus sign on it. Number 6, we've got radical 192 x5 y4. So we're going to have to break down the 192. I'm going to try to squeeze it in over here. That's 2 times 96, yes, which is 2 times 48, which is 2 times 24, which is 2 times 12, which is 2 times 6, which is 2 times 3. 3, 6, 12, 24, 48, 96. Yes, that's correct. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 2's. We got a 3. We got 5 x's. We got 4 y's. Circle my pairs. Pair, 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 pair of x's, pair of x's, pair of y's, pair of y's. 2, 2, 2 comes out. X, X comes out. Y, Y. And then look what's left underneath. A 3 and an x. So 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, x times x is x squared, y times y is y squared, 3x, slap the plus minus sign on the front. Again, I'm going fast because there are a lot of questions here. 7, we've got 4 radical 2n cubed over 5 radical 3n squared. So 2 and 3 are prime, so those aren't going to break down at all. So that gives me 4 radical 2 times n times n times n. So I broke the 3 n's. 5 radical 3 times n. Cancel, cancel. So now I have 4 radical 2n over 5 radical 3. Can't have the bottom, so I'm going to multiply this by radical 3 over radical 3. Multiply, keep it in the family. These two get to multiply because they're both radicals. So that's 4, 2n times 3 is 6n. That's 5, and then radical 3 times 3 is 3, so I got to multiply. So 4 radical 6n over 15. I do have to check these because now these are in the same family. They're both constants. And nothing goes into 4 that goes into 15. So you're done. Number 8, I radical 73. Remember what our chart is. 1, 2, 3, 4. I, -1, -I, 1. So I'm going to take 73 and I'm going to divide it by 4 because there's 4 options. 4 into 7 is once. 7 minus 4 is 3, bring that down. 4 times 8, 8 times 4 is 32. My remainder is 1, so we're going to go to the first choice, which means I radical 73 is I. There's no radical, so I didn't put a plus minus sign on it. Okay, number 9. We've got 3 plus 7i plus 2 minus 4i. We are adding, which means we're combining like terms. Technically, there is a 1 outside of both of these that will distribute in, but 1 times anything is just itself, so I can remove those radicals and just combine my like terms. 3 plus 2 is 5. Positive 7i minus 4i, or 7i plus a negative 4i, is positive 3i. Number 10, I got negative I minus parentheses 2 minus 3i. You know, some of you guys, when you see these parentheses, you start automatically thinking of foiling. This cannot be FOIL because there are minus signs right there and there. If there's a plus or a minus sign anywhere, it is not FOIL. This is a negative 1 that's going to distribute in. This is a negative 5 that will distribute in. So this negative I is going to come down. Negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. Negative 1 times negative 3 is plus 3i. Negative 5 times 1 is negative 5. Negative 5 times negative 2 is plus 10i. You guys also like to put parentheses again. Once you distribute, parentheses go away. That's another way for you to be able to tell that it's combining like terms. So negative 2 and negative 5 add together to make negative 7. 3i and 10i make 13i, minus this 1i makes 12i. (11) 2i times 7 minus 4i. Some of y'all are doing foiling, but this is not a binomial. If this had 2 plus I, then yes, you would be foiling. And it would have to be in parentheses. This is just straight up distributing. 2i times 7, 2i times negative 4i. So 2i times 7 is 14i. 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. I times I is I squared. Well, I squared now has to turn into negative 1. So negative 8 times negative 1 is positive 8. Again, going fast. Feel free to pause, rewatch, do what you need to do. Number 12, 2 minus 3i squared. That little 2 means we have 2 of them. And this is where you will be foiling because there's no plus or minus sign right here. So 2 times 2 is 4. Notice how parentheses go away once I start doing something. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6i. Negative 3i times 2 is negative 6i. Negative 3i times negative 3i is plus 9i squared. So let's combine these two like terms. Negative 6i and negative 6i is negative 12i plus 9. Now my I squared is going to turn into negative 1. So that's 4 minus 12i. Positive 9 times negative 1 is negative 9. Now we can combine these two like terms. It's either 4 minus 9 or 4 plus a negative 9. So 4 minus 9 is negative 5 minus 12i. (13) radical negative 450. If it makes you feel better when you have this, just remove it and put an I here. So now I have 450. So just get that I out right away. So 450 is 45 times 10. 10 is 2 times 5. 45 is 5 times 9, and 9 is 3 times 3. So I have I, and then under the radical I have a 2, 2 3s, and 2 5s. Circle my pairs. So they come out, so I have basically 3 times 5 times I, and then underneath I still have this 2 that didn't have a partner. 3 times 5 is 15I, and then yes, things came out, even right here, that minus came out, so at the end, I'll tack that plus minus sign on the front of it. (14) 5I radical negative 96. If I want to bring this out, that would give me 5I times another I radical 96. So I'm going to break 96 down, which is 8 times 12. 80, yes, 8 is 2 times 4, 4 is 2 times 2, 12 is 2 times 6. You can see if you don't circle them, they really start to blend. So I've got 5I squared, because I times I is I squared. And then I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 2's, and a 3. Circle my pairs. So I have 5I squared times 2 times 2 radical. We still got 2 times 3 underneath. So 5I squared, 5 times 2 is 10, times 2 is 20I squared, radical 6, 2 times 3. Could have done this earlier, I can do it now. I squared is negative 1, so that's 20 times negative 1. 20 times negative 1 is negative 20. Radical 6. Now we have no i's left. Things did come out. Here an I came out, here a 2 and another 2, so that means I got to plus minus it, so I can just put the plus on top of that. (15) I've got radical 20 over 2 radical negative 50. So I can go ahead and break that down right now. I'm just gonna have radical 20, which is 2 times 2 times 5. Just save us some time right there. Over 2 from right there. Now that negative's coming out, which is an I. And then 50 is 2 times 5 times 5. So my 2's cancel and my 5's cancel. So now I have radical 2 on top over 2I radical 5. Cannot have a radical on the bottom, so I multiply by radical 5 over radical 5. So radical 2 times radical 5 is radical 10. 2I times 5, because 2I and then radical 5 is just 5. So that now gives me radical 10 over 2 times 5 is 10I. Can't have an I on the bottom, so multiply by I over I, which gives me I radical 10, because that's got to go in front. You don't say radical 10I or it'll look like it's under the radical, over 10I squared. Well, I squared is negative 1, so 10 times negative 1 will be I radical 10 over negative 10, which really we don't like the negative in front, so or in the bottom, so I'm going to push it right there, which is going to give me negative right on the same side as the fraction bar. I radical 10 over 10. No, these cannot cancel because this one's in the radical and this one's not. We had something come out right here. This negative came out and became an I, so this will be a plus minus. So I can just put it right there. I'm going to shift over here and do number 16 since I have a little bit of room on this paper. So we had negative 32 over 20, which is really I brought this negative out. Radical 32 over radical 20, which if I break 32 down, 32 would be 8 times 4, 2 times 4, 2 times 2, 2 times 2, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, 16, yes. Over radical 20, which is 2 times 2 times 5. Cancel, cancel. Here's a pair. See, I'm just kind of going slow, take my time. Bring that 2 out, so now that's 2i. Radical 2, because that's all that's left there, over radical 5. Can't have that 5 on the bottom, so I multiply by radical 5 over radical 5. So that gives me 2i radical 10, because 2 times 5 is 10, over, some of y'all are canceling these out, radical 5 times radical 5 is whole number 5. Did anything come out? Yes. Here the negative came out to make the I. Here the 2 came out to make the 2. We had plenty of things come out, so I'm just going to put a plus minus in front of this, and I get 2i radical 10. All right, let's keep going. 6 more. Now we get to the quadratic formula stuff. So we have on 17, negative 2n squared minus 3n plus 7 equals negative 7n. Set it equal to 0. So negative 2n squared minus 3n. That minus 7n is going to become plus 7n. I put it there to combine with that. Equals 0. Negative 3 and positive 7 make positive 4n plus 7. If there was a number that went into all 3 of these, I could divide to make this smaller, but I do not. So my A is negative 2, my B is 4, and my C is 7. So negative B, which is 4, plus or minus B, which is 4, squared, minus 4A, which is negative 2, times C, which is 7, all over 2 times A, which is negative 2. Simplify, so negative then 4 is negative 4, plus or minus, we're going to do the discriminant, which is that inside part. So I can see if that'll show up a little bit on here. Let me see if I can kind of make that a little darker for y'all. So remember, when we're using this calculator, we want to make sure that we're putting things in parentheses. I'm just typing in that inside the radical part, which is called the discriminant. That gives me 72 over 2 times negative 2, which is negative 4. 72, if I type it in, is a decimal, which means I need to simplify it. That'll be 2 times 36, which is 6 times 6, which is 2 and 3, and 2 and 3. So I end up with negative 4 plus or minus, I got 1, 2, 3 2's, 2 3's, all over negative 4. Pair and a pair. So when I bring this 2 out and I bring that 3 out, that's 2 times 3, which is 6. And then that 2 is left underneath. You don't have to worry about the plus minus because it's already built into the equation. So don't try to add another plus minus anywhere. So then we look at the triangle. Remember the triangle simplifying? It has to go into all 3 of those numbers. So because this is negative, 2 goes into all of these. I'm going to divide it by a negative 2. Negative 4 divided by negative 2 is positive 2. This 6 divided by negative 2 is 3. I know it's negative 3, but that plus or minus handles that. And then negative 4 divided by negative 2 is 2. So that is your best answer. If you would have divided by 2 and kept these negative, obviously I would accept that as well. Okay, 18, same kind of question. 9k squared minus 4k plus 3. Already got it equal to 0. Nothing goes into all of those, so I'm just going to identify my a, which is 9, my b, which is negative 4, my c, which is 3, negative b, which is negative 4, plus or minus b, which is negative 4, minus 4a c, all over 2 times a. So we'll go back here. Let me clear my screen. So negative negative 4 is positive 4, plus or minus, we'll do the discriminant, which is negative 4 squared minus 4 times 9 times 3. I can already tell that's going to be a negative number, which that means we're going to have an I over 2 times 9, which is 18. So if you want, I can bring this negative out, put an I right there, and now it's positive. 92 is 2 times 46, which is 2 times 23, and 23 is prime. So that'll be 2 times 2 times 23 all over 18. There's a pair that's going to come out in front of this I. 4 plus or minus 2i radical 23 over 18. And now I do the triangle simplifying again. You know that you'll never divide by a number that is bigger than your smallest number. So I mean 2 is the highest I'm going to go. So I'm going to divide by 2. And 4 divided by 2 is 2. Plus or minus 2 divided by 2 is 1. You can put the 1 if you want, but it's imaginary. So the I stays. 18 divided by 2 is 9. Perfect. 4 more. 19. These ones wanted us to solve by square roots. Remember, square roots were when we did not have a b. That means we did not have an x. So I'm going to isolate the constant this time, which is x squared equals negative 11 plus 14, which gives me 8x squared equals 3. Divide by 8, divide by 8. X squared equals 3 over 8. So I'm going to square root, square root. So that basically gives me x equals radical 3 over radical 8, which I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of that radical on the bottom now. So multiply by radical 8 over radical 8, which 3 times 8 gives me radical 24 over 8. Got to check 24, so 24 is 2 times 12, 2 times 6, 2 times 3. You can see I'm going to have a pair. So that is 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 over 8. There's a pair that comes out. So now I have 2 radical, 2 times 3 is 6 over 8. Check these. I can divide that by 2. Because 2 divided by 2 is basically 1. I'm not going to write it. It's imaginary, but there's a 1 there. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 20 is negative 5x squared plus 4 equals 44. No b because I have no x, so I bring that over, which gives me negative 5x squared equals 44 minus 4. Negative 5x squared equals 40. divide by -5, cancels, x squared equals, well, that's a perfect division. 40 divided by -5 is -8. Square root. That gives me x equals, I'm going to take that negative out, make it an I, radical 8. So I'm going to break 8 down, which is 2 times 4 and 2 times 2. So now I have I, 2 times 2 times 2. Circle my pair, that comes out. Multiply with the I gives me 2I, radical 2. And did I have anything come out? I had this come out, I had this negative come out. So that's when I put that plus minus sign at the end. All right, last but not least, the final two, the completing the square. So remember, if any of these you want to do by the quadratic, you can. That is completely up to you. All right, first things first, I'm going to go ahead and just divide by 3 because all of these can be divided by 3, even the 0 because everything's got to get it. And so 3 divided by 3 cancels, gives me v squared. 18 divided by 3 is 6v. And 177 divided by 3, I think is 29. No, it's 59, I'm sorry. And even 0 divided by 3 is 0. So with completing the square, we bring the constant over. And we leave that space for when we're going to do that. So -59 becomes 59. And I'm going to add and add because whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. So I take my b, which is 6, cut it in half by dividing it by 2. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. Square it, and that becomes 9, which means I'm going to add 9 and add 9. So when I do that, from the first term I take v, from the second term I take this plus sign, from the third term I do the square root of 9, which is also half a b, so the square root of 9 is 3 squared equals 59 plus 9, which is 68. Square root, the square root of v plus 3 squared is just v plus 3. The square root of 68, well, let's go to the side. 2 times 34, 2 times 17. So 2 times 2 times 17. Bring it out. So that gives me v plus 3 equals 2 radical 17. Did it come out? Yes, so I'll put the plus minus sign on it. And then when I bring this 3 over, it goes in front. So I get -3 plus or minus 2 radical 17. You would get the same thing if you did the quadratic formula with a is 3, b is 18, and c is -177. Last one. So I've got -2x squared minus 3x minus 128 equals -7x. I'll bring this over. So -2x squared minus 3x plus 7x, because that becomes plus, minus 128 equals 0. -2x squared, -3x plus 7x is plus 4x, minus 128 equals 0. Let's go ahead and simplify by dividing everything by -2. Make sure it's negative so you get rid of the whole -2. That cancels, gives me x squared. Positive 4 divided by -2 is -2x. -128 divided by negative, so a negative divided by negative is a positive 64. And 0 divided by -2 is 0. I can do my ABC here, I can do my ABC here, or I can do completing the square. I cannot do square roots because I have a b. So I'm going to bring the 64 over. Plus and plus, whatever I do to one side I do to the other. Take your b, which is -2, and cut it in half by dividing by 2. So -2 divided by -2 is -1. -1 squared, got to have it in parentheses because it's negative, is -1 times -1, which is just +1. So I'm adding 1 and I'm adding 1. So from the first term I take x, from the second term I take the minus sign, from the third term the square root of 1 is 1, and -64 plus 1 is -63. Square root, square root. Square root of x minus 1, x minus 1. Square root of -63, well, I know it's I because I can bring the negative out, radical 63. I'm going to go to the side. 63 is 9 times 7. 9 is 3 times 3, so I've got x minus 1 equals I. 3 times 3 times 7. Circle my pair, bring it out. X minus 1 equals 3i. Radical 7, that 3 multiplies with the I to make 3i. I had a 3 come out and I had a minus come out, so there is a plus minus there. Bring this minus 1 over and put it in the front, so that minus 1 becomes a +1. 3i radical 7. Okay, I wanted to do it in 30 minutes. That was almost 37 minutes. So study. Let me know how I can help. It's going to all be about neatness, and that goes down to everything from keeping things straight to, you know, putting your plus minus signs in the right spot, remembering to multiply, breaking down appropriately, putting negatives in parentheses. All of those come into play. If you have any questions, shoot me a reminder. Good luck.